Hello, viewers. Welcome to the CSR Universe Leaders Talk segment. In today's episode, I am thrilled to present to you a thought-provoking conversation on a crucial issue that affects and impacts profoundly millions of people across the globe. And we are going to talk about the development of mobility solutions, especially for the visually impaired, that are specifically tailored for them. So as we all know that visually impaired people in India especially, they face a host of challenges such as lack of adequate infrastructure, lack of accessibility, and even in terms of security, they don't feel very safe while boarding a bus or taking any kind of public transportation. But however, collective action and innovative technological solutions uh, can actually transform this space and make changes which are meaningful and inclusive for this particular community. So on these lines, one such initiative that we are going to talk about is the OnBoard project, which aims to develop a technology solution that can assist visually impaired individuals in boarding public transport buses, thereby increasing their mobility to a larger geographical area. And to discuss the potential impact of such innovative solutions on the lives of this community, and of course, changing the entire transportation industry in India, we have today the collaborators behind OnBoard from Continental India, the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, and Raised Lines Foundation. And as I begin to introduce our esteemed speakers for today's discussion, I would also, for the understanding of our viewers, like to give a brief profile of each of them. So we have with us a very eminent academician, Professor M Balakirshnan. He is a professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at IIT Delhi, and he specializes in digital systems, design and assistive devices for the visually impaired, such as the Smart Cane and the Dot Book. And for that, he founded the AssistTech, which is again a research group that develops these devices. Additionally, he has supervised numerous projects, published extensively, and held visiting positions in international universities. He has also received national and international recognition for his work in this space and has made significant contributions to research and teaching in this field. He has also initiated the Empower Conference. It's an extreme privilege to have you here, sir. And thank you so much. And we want to express our gratitude for you to join us. Thank you so much, sir. A very warm welcome to you.
Thanks.
Next, we have with us our esteemed speaker, Mr. Pulkit Sapra. He's the co-founder of Raised Lines Foundation. He is an IIT graduate and experienced product developer specializing in assistive technology. And he is renowned for inventing India's first braille laptop called the Dot Book. And he focuses on improving diagram accessibility for visually impaired students. So he's doing a lot of work in the education domain, and with a background in senior research at the Assistec Lab itself, his contributions to the field of technologies include smart technologies like Smart Cane and tactile graphics. And his unwavering commitment to providing equal education opportunities, especially for the visually impaired students, has earned him multiple accolades and national awards from esteemed organizations such as DST, NASCOM, and Microsoft. That is so, so inspiring, Pulkit. And thank you so much for joining us. It's we all very heartily welcome you. So we can begin the discussion. My first question to both of you, and I would want Professor Balakirshnan to answer first, is that, in light of the limited attention given by policymakers, educators, and even industries across for the visually impaired, OnBoard project comes like a fresh breath of air. In fact, it can become a game changer in this domain specifically. So what research and what factors led you to, collaborate on this project?
Okay, so basically the technology is developed for conditions that prevail in countries like ours. So where there are two challenges. One is, of course, a global challenge of a visually impaired who is waiting for a bus. Right. How does he or she know that the route number of the bus. That's a global challenge.
Hmm.
The second challenge that is present is if the buses are not always able to come and stop in the bay, the person may have to actually find out where the entry door of the bus is, because it's not possible for a person to start searching for the entry door, look with this cane and trying to locate the entry door. So to find the fairly a globally unique solution, now we have a patent on this solution, which we call it as OnBoard, which consists of a small device which is with the user, and a small speaker and a controller which is on the bus. These two devices communicate with each other. User can query what are the buses which are in the vicinity. Buses will respond, and all this will happen at the radio frequency. So buses will respond and tell their route number. User's device will speak out these route numbers one after the other. If the route number is of interest to the person, then he or she will press the select button. Once he presses the select button, then the bus starts speaking the route number. This is a two-part transaction, query and then select. And in this process, the person is able to get the not only the route number, but also the direction of the entry door. And he can keep on pressing the select button. Each time the person presses the select button, it speaks out again. So even if he has lost the audio cue, he can rejoin and get the audio cue again. In this process, he or she also alerts the driver or the conductor of the bus that the person with special needs is boarding. And this can help the device to be used not only by the visually impaired, it can also be used by other people who may have locomotor, temporary or permanent locomotor disability, older person, pregnant woman, who just needs to alert. It's a user-triggered device, so it alerts the driver conductor to the requirement of a person who needs more time at the bus stand for him or her to board the bus. So this was the device called OnBoard, which we developed in the lab, prototyped it, with very significant trials in Mumbai on 25 best buses, where we very effectively showed that this solution works on the field. We had around 25 users who were given this device, trained on this device. First, they went through assisted boarding, and then they were asked to do independent unassisted boarding. In 350 boardings, 92% success they had in boarding the first bus that came on the route by themselves. 8% failure may not always be because of the device, because it's also possible that some of these buses did not have the device because the depot actually makes some changes. So after successfully proving this, then we started support for doing a city-wide installation. We did miniaturization. We are now connected it to the bus power source. Earlier in the Mumbai trials, it was actually had a separate battery, but then we followed it up with trials in Delhi, where it now works very effectively with, so it doesn't need a different charging. Maintenance issues are much lower, and we can install it on buses in a very short time frame and test it on. And this is where we stand, that we have a tested solution. It needs a city scale validation. That is clearly true, because this was a much smaller, only on 2 route numbers these devices are put in Mumbai. And we would like users to use it on their day-to-day commute rather than just doing trials.
Okay, great, sir. Thank you so much for those insights. And before I ask Pulkit the next question, I would like to introduce our third eminent speaker for today's discussion, Ms. Deepa Sasidharan. She's the head of the corporate communications for Continental India, which is a renowned automotive technology and component supplier. And with nearly 2 decades of expertise and experience in communication, Deepa oversees business communication and PR for 8 legal entities across 15 locations in India, including the manufacturing and R&D facilities. And she also leads strategic campaigns that positions the company as a technology leader in the industry. She also leads a team of communication professionals, and her achievements have garnered industry recognition, the latest being the PRCI Award. A very warm welcome to you, Deepa. We extend our sincere gratitude to you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, Ruchika. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Deepa. So we were discussing, and Professor Balakirshnan very eloquently, comprehensively described the onboard project. So my question to Pulkit, and then I'll come back to you, Deepa, again. Pulkit, can you tell me your role in this entire collaboration, and if you can, give us a walkthrough through the entire process of onboard from its ideation to its deployment.
So basically, Professor Bala touched upon it, how onboard initiated. So onboard initiated, it was given to us as a problem that how a visually impaired person can board the bus independently.
Right.
And it initiated as a solution from lab. So being part of this lab ecosystem since my graduation period itself at IIT Delhi, the team, so RLF, I'll briefly introduce Baseline Foundation. Baseline Foundation is a non-profit startup from IIT Delhi, which is actually initiated from the lab ecosystem itself, from Assistic Lab itself. And the team that is running Baseline Foundation has been involved in multiple projects during this time. So I myself was involved in onboard in the ideation phase at the lab level, even at the testing level.
Right.
And then later on, it was very natural for us to take on board as a industry partner for taking it forward to scale. Also, from Baseline perspective, our primary focus has been education. And education both at the school level, at the college level, and even we also support skill development and at employment level also. So, but mobility and education usually go hand in hand. If a student is not able to reach school, then how will he study?
Right.
So this challenge is something that we also thought that being Baseline Foundation gives us an opportunity to handle the complete ecosystem from home to school, then study in school, and then come back. Similarly, if you are going to college, student can use public transport, go to college, then study, and then come back. And this mobility as a right is something that we also believe at Baseline Foundation. So that is something that that is where the concept of taking on board as part of Baseline Foundation came into being. And then because the technology and the patent was done at IIT Delhi, the technology was then transferred to Baseline Foundation to scale it up. And at Baseline Foundation team already had experience of onboard. They understand the technology very well. So it was very natural for us to adapt it. And now we are working to scale this up on the development side itself, where in the last trials, whatever the feedbacks were given to us, like auto numbering of the bus, like there was one big feedback that rather than bus driver changing the bus number, can the bus number be configured automatically on the bus module? Okay, so those feedbacks we are now incorporating in the design, waterproofing, because bus usually goes into wash. So these modules should work like that. There should be at least a long life of the module. The user module should be very reliable. So those feedbacks we are now incorporating in the design level itself, so that the device can scale at a level where nationwide every bus should be accessible for visual.
Right. Great. So, Deepa, moving on to you, since we know their role, what role has Continental India played here, especially as a funding partner, and what has been your rationale behind this investment and collaboration?
Yeah. Thanks, Ruchika. So as when you were introducing me, you spoke about Continental being a technology company. So in the automotive space, we are trying to, when it comes to India, we are trying to see how the power of technology can democratize this entire thing of mobility for the common man, right? Bringing technologies to the reach of common man, because technology should not be limited to your high-end vehicles, any technology for that matter, right? So we in the automotive industry, we speak about connected, autonomous, electric, all of the various trends, and it's also very logical to think that mobility should also be accessible to all, right? Inclusivity. We are talking about autonomous. We should also be talking in the same breath about inclusivity of mobility. So this is something that Continental feels very strongly about. And this is not something, we want to consider it as a business opportunity, because we believe that as a 150-year-old organization in the space of mobility, this is the way we should give back to the society by seeing, is there even one step that we can take to make mobility more inclusive? So we were looking for partners, like-minded people, because in our view, public-private partnership is the best way to take these things forward. Yeah, because there are so many brilliant ideas that come from the grassroots, which touch upon the needs of the common man using technology. So we were looking for this. We scouted actually the whole of India, different organizations, different startups. We looked at multiple partners, and that is when we came across this idea which IIT was incubating, and then we evaluated this amongst, I think, about 40 ideas we evaluated, and we shortlisted this because we see the power of this technology. Yeah, this is very unique to begin with, like Professor and Pulkit mentioned. This is unique to begin with. There is nothing, in our view, there is nothing like this that exists in the entire world. And we know the problems that differently abled people and visually challenged people face in our country. Our infrastructure does not support them, right? How fair is that? So this is the very starting point for Continental to support this. And we also looked at how strong the solution that they have. Is it just an idea in a PowerPoint, or is it something that really works? Has this been tested? So we looked at it thoroughly. We had a panel that evaluated this thoroughly, and we are so confident of the power of this technology. Yeah, so Continental is the funding partner. This is part of our CSR initiative, and we have a CSR arm called Conscience, which drives this initiative. And so how we see it is, now we want to take it to a larger testing, piloting of the solution, a larger round of testing with probably larger number of buses, larger number of users. So that is where Continental comes into play. And probably, we are a manufacturing company. So if there are, and hardware and software, all of it, we know this also very well. We are in that business. So if there is something from our side in terms of expertise that we can offer, that is also on offer. Yeah. But otherwise, we are the funding partner, and together what we are trying to do is, can we take this to a larger test base? Yeah, because in the future, who knows, this could be a game changer. This could be a legislation. We don't know. So we want to take this to a larger group, test it, and see how strong this is, show how robust this is, and see how people benefit out of this. So this is that simple thing of, how do we make mobility more inclusive and accessible for all? Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So moving to Professor Balakirshnan again, you and Pulkit also pointed that there were prototypes that were tested, there were pilot tests being done. So did you face any kind of challenges while, creating these devices? So you're on mute. Could you please unmute yourself?
Yeah, so the first challenge was essentially understanding the user requirements well and trying to come up with an affordable solution. But as I pointed out earlier, so both electronics and software fortunately scale well. So we can find a solution which is simple and we can scale it. So from a challenge point of view, the testing it in field was clearly some challenge, primarily because of the fact that we need to do the user training. We need to do the training of the bus operator, because to some extent, in our first Mumbai trials, we also had this, that because we had not connected it to the bus batteries, so we need to make sure that the batteries are always charged. So once in a week or once in 5-6 days, the batteries need to be charged at the depot. So conducting those trials, training the users and conducting those trials, definitely. But we had, again, a very good partner in Mumbai, XRCVC, which has been working in the space of empowering people with visual impairment. So they were a very sort of effective partner. who helped us to both recruit and train these users in Mumbai.
Okay.
So then even designing the experiments was some interesting way. So we wanted to show that how do we create some experiments by which some single metrics we can show its effectiveness. So that also I would say pretty unique in terms of the experimentation itself, because there are no standards available. It was not like I could report some numbers. Like in scientific experimentation, we always have some benchmarks and we can report. Here are some metrics. So here we designed a very unique metric. We said that the visually impaired person, when they reach the bus stop, when they are doing unassisted boarding, they should note down the time that they reach the bus stop. And when they board the bus, they should note down the time that they boarded the bus. And this they had to report on a daily basis whenever they are performing trials. And this waiting time for the visually impaired person at the bus stop. And this waiting time translated to whether they were able to board the first bus on the route, because there was a route frequency. If the route frequency was 20 minutes and they waited only 10 minutes, that means they were able to board the first bus. And if they, let us say, they waited for 30 minutes and the route frequency was 20 minutes, that means they missed a bus. So this was, I would say, a fairly unique metric, because by this, I should report here saying that 92% of the time, 350 boardings that the users did, 92% of the time, they were able to get the first bus on the route by themselves. So even, this is quite a sort of an interesting metric to because it's a unique device, so we had to come up with this. So all of these were challenging, but at the end, they were very interesting. And I would say that the process also helped us understand the various stakeholders, the users themselves, what challenges the users face, and also the bus operators, because till that time we had never interacted. Users, we have been interacting right from the beginning.
Right.
We also had been testing it on our own IIT campus bus much before we went to any bus operator. So we had some idea, but so the operators themselves, the Mumbai bus operator gave very interesting suggestions. So which helped us to refine our device. So these are also something which is, because here there is a third party involved, both in terms of maintenance. For example, 3-4 different refinements we have made, which is primarily based on the feedback that came from the West Mumbai. Okay. For example, one problem that they said was sometimes the buses stopped, but nobody boarded, because it got triggered. It read the route number, but nobody boarded. When we went back and checked all the logs, who was that particular point in time, then it came out that actually the person was waiting on the other side of you're not waiting for this bus, but by mistake, it triggered. Normally, people do have a good sense whether the bus is, which direction the bus is flying, and they will only query and select for buses which are on. Happened during the 3 months trial process that somebody on the other side triggered. So this helped us to make the response directional so that this problem gets avoided. Second thing which was pointed out by the best manager when we finally went to thank him for supporting our this set of trials, because clearly there was a lot of effort from the bus company also to support us. But what he pointed out that though you have designed this solution for visually impaired, but this actually is the point that I tried to make. It is also helpful for those people who may just need to alert the driver and conductor, they need more time for boarding. And he also said that this, because it makes gives an audio cue, it creates empathy, it creates awareness among the drivers and conductors. And this itself is a very big help for me, because in a crowded bus stop, actually expecting a driver or a conductor will be able to locate a person with special needs and help them to board a bus is not possible. A user-triggered device is best suited for this purpose, because it actually creates that awareness and creates this. So these are all learnings, and these are all in some sense experiment itself. Okay, so in terms of conducting the trials.
Okay, great.
Ruchika, I had a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sorry, this was actually related to the cost component of the prototype. Okay, you were coming on that. Sorry. Do you want to go ahead? Or I'll just, it's just that you have a prototype, it's ready and you're testing it. So I just wanted to know what is the estimated cost? Suppose, suppose for if you want to implement this solution on a DTC, on DTC buses. So what is the kind of cost that DTC would have to incur? And suppose I'm a user, I want to buy that device. What is the estimated end cost? Do you have an estimate for that yet?
Yeah, we have an estimate.
Of
So
the actual product. Okay.
Of course, at the end of the day, cost will depend on the volume. Okay, so because
yes,
of the volume of the order, but we expect that once it reaches we are now in a position to mass manufacture. We are looking at the device cost on the bus to be something in the range of 6,000 to 8,000 rupees for the bus device, and for the user device something in the range of 400 to 600 rupees. Okay. So this is for the user device.
So we missed the number that you said, that once we cross this many devices, we missed that number.
So let's say if we are ordering in thousands, let us say. Okay, so if DTC has 5,000 buses, they order in thousands.
That's fair enough. Yeah, number. Yeah.
Okay. So just to add to this, so I'll quickly show also. So this is the bus device that goes on the bus. Not is it visible?
Yeah. Yes, now
it's visible. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is the bus device, and this small one is the user device.
Okay.
Okay. So user will only have to purchase the user module. Okay, there are a lot of government schemes like EDIP schemes through which these modules, we in the long term, we feel that these modules will be part of that. And the bus module, in the long term, what we feel is it should go into the bus specification. When the bus is first manufactured, at that time itself, this should be part of the specification that it should be accessible and this devices should be installed in the bus itself. So the cost of the bus module is not very significant, not that down the line, DTC or any bus transport agency might not have to just purchase this device and install themselves. In new buses and smart city projects, the buses that are now being purchased, these will go into specification and the bus manufacturer will incorporate those costs. The major cost that will come will be on the user side, which is right now very less significant. Plus, we are also looking for government schemes in which these devices can be provided. There was one more use case which Professor Bala was pointing out is there are a lot of limited mobility users, like an old age user or who can see the bus number, but want to alert the driver or the conductor that I need more time in boarding the bus. Can you wait for a while? Okay. So for that, we are also thinking of an Android app. So here, the solution works on only RS. Because we need a longer range, at least a person should be able to detect the bus around 25 to 30 meters before the bus stop so that he can be prepared. But for a sighted user who needs just the assistance, a Bluetooth-based system might also work. There, the scalability is much higher. It can be a basic Android app through which the system can be triggered to inform the bus driver. So we are also looking at that way to scale it up. There the cost will come reduce very significantly because a person just have to download the app to use the systems.
So Deepa, like based on his Pulkit's observations over here and his insights, I want to know, in terms of the cost implications and affordability again, what can corporate social sector stakeholders like you, step in and change it and transform it so that it becomes more meaningful and accessible to a large number of these communities?
Yeah, so you're right. Actually, organizations like you can help amplify what Professor and Pulkit and team are doing. Initiatives like these beautiful ideas lie unused simply because of lack of funds. Often, that is the starting point that, we need to make this any such technology which is large scale implication require extensive testing, extensive R&D, and that requires financial support. So that is the first step for any organization to support such things. People can come forward, especially Most corporates operating in India at this point have social responsibility as a serious priority. So organizations like us can come forward, look at such things with long-term impact. When we talk about social responsibility or CSR, we don't necessarily have to look at the low-hanging fruits. There are so many such things where we can step in, look at things which make long-term, lasting impact, sustainable impact. And this is something that I really believe organizations can do. And for us, it is not so difficult. It is not so difficult to do. That's what I would say, Ruchika.
So, Deepa, as an industry leader, what would be your and Continental India's short-term and long-term commitments towards advancing accessibility to the visually impaired people?
Yeah, so one, of course, we are going to support this project. We are already, looking at we already have an MOU to take this forward for pilot testing, etc. So we will see how this is progressing, and we are going to support this. We will also try to take this up. In fact, we are already taking this up with industry bodies for showcasing this at the right forums with the right influencers and decision makers to show what the power of these technologies and how they can be taken forward. One is to receive support from them as well, right, in terms of ideas, in terms of how practicality of these things, etc. We would be taking this forward in that step as well, taking these to industry bodies. Probably if there is some other additional industry standards testing that is required, which adds to the value of this product, to the credibility of this product, we would be looking at that as well. And who knows, like I was saying earlier, probably one day this could be a legislation, and then we don't have to worry about the money, where is the money coming from for me to buy this device. It is going to be a legislation, and it is going to be available for all. So that is the ideal scenario. We will strive to do as much as possible. So this is, and we are committed. That's what I would say.
That's great. That's great to hear. So I was just, I was thinking about this person. Siddharth Daga is also an IIT, and he's the founder of Neo Motion. So I had a question for Pulkit especially, and Professor Balakirshnan can also add to that. Is it possible to integrate the technology solution that OnBoard is providing with something that Neo Motion is providing, and create employment opportunities in the future for the visually impaired as well? What are your thoughts?
Definitely. So we at RLF also works in collaboration with lots of other organizations working in this area, because if you see this area, the sector is so niche that people still work in their isolations, and everyone has a new group of ideas which can solve a particular problem. If you can club those ideas and work together, then the impact is much significant. So Neo Motion, I know Siddharth quite. So Siddharth and I graduated almost at the same time. He graduated from IIT Madras, and I graduated from Delhi. So I know him since 2013.
Oh.
And so the solution that he has built is very useful, very scalable. Okay, and we believe that OnBoard can be easily integrated with that. It's for a person with limited mobility again. So if that solution can be integrated, like I was talking about the app, rather than having a user module, if the person has an app, he can just trigger and alert a bus driver that I want to board this bus. Can you just pull out the easy? So they have usually a ramp kind of platform through which a wheelchair can board.
Right.
So if we can just quickly pull it out, so it becomes very easy for a person to board. In the meanwhile, when he's coming towards the bus driver can pull out that ramp and the person can board. So solutions can definitely be integrated with that. So the focus of this particular project right now is to, at least at a city level, if we can prove the solution, that the solution is working, then these integration, these collaborations is much easier. Okay, so with this project, we at least want to prove. So here, like in the project, we were earlier discussing that we want to do trials with 500 users, but again, the 500 users will not all be visually impaired. We also want to look into wheelchair users. We also wanted to look into old age users and other limited mobility users, so that through this we can scope the solution and then do ideal collaborations with the people working in those areas to scale it up.
Right. So Professor Balakrishnan, would you like to add something to that?
So device costs are very important. So presently the solution was designed for people with, so we kept the solution very simple. But this type of two-way communication, which also have with an audio cue, has actually multiple users. So you talked about NeoMotion. So let me also mention about something that we are doing now in another project, and which we also now are scaling up, which we call as indoor navigation system, which supports visually impaired people to be able to navigate themselves inside a building. So outside, interestingly, things like Google Maps and all have become accessible because of the talkback and text to speech that is available on the mobiles. So they can also use those solutions which have become universal. But once you reach a building, they need again a sighted assistance to be able to go to a particular office, to go to meet a particular doctor, or any operation they have to do inside a large building or in the airport and things like that. So because even though, first of all, very many places there are no signages, or where signages are present, they are also only for sighted people. So for a visually impaired, so now even there, technologies like this is useful, because let us say I reach a certain point and I can get an audio cue. I'm trying to look at a blind person, not assisted, trying to locate a toilet, okay, in an airport. So how does the person will locate a toilet, okay, or locate a water point, or locate a lift? So the last mile could be actually using an audio cue. So because audio cue is an extremely good sort of indicator for a visually impaired person, because it also gives the direction to the person. Because they can locate the direction very easily and move towards this. So this particular technology has multiple utility beyond what we have said. And of course, there are startups, and we would like to, people like NeoMotion are very, so let me also point it out that the people behind NeoMotion, the faculty behind NeoMotion, they have been in sort of, we have been engaging with them for a long time. And to a great extent, the SmartCane project was one of the most successful initial assistive technology project coming from in India. And that inspired a lot of people to take up the assistive technology. Okay, so, and today you see a much better ecosystem of academia working, and academia and other R&D organizations, and including a startup ecosystem that has developed, which is extremely good. And we also do a conference along with these collaborators, which will happen in October, which we developed this conference called Empower, which is to showcase assistive technologies which are being developed in the country.
Wonderful, wonderful. Deepa, I want to ask you, both Professor Balakrishnan and Pulkit have spoken about the scalability of such initiatives. What are your thoughts on that? Can they be replicated, and how do you want to expand these initiatives, to further geographies?
Yeah, if I speak specifically about OnBoard, yes, that is the thing that we have to, and that is what these extensive pilots will also help. The more testing we do, the more confidence we gain, and more takers come forward, etc., etc. So these have to be that is what we all aspire to, and we at Continental we want to support this as much as possible. So we will see. So we are currently focusing on this first set of pilots for the 500 numbers, and then we will see how we have to tweak, or how we progress further from there. But yes, the answer to your question is yes, that is what we would like to see.
So Deepa, are there any other initiatives that Continental has taken up for the visually impaired specifically, other than OnBoard?
For the visually impaired, this is the one. We do not have anything else.
Okay, and I know that you have been working a lot for women empowerment also, and people with disabilities. So are there any initiatives for women with disabilities, and is Continental India also looking at taking them in as employees, or giving them some employment opportunities or skill development opportunities?
Yeah, so we have a program called Women for Manufacturing, again managed by our Conscience CSR arm. So Women for Manufacturing also focuses on what you just said, that skill development. Primarily, the reason is that the manufacturing sector has a very, very low number of women as part of the workforce, especially in the shop floor. As I understand, it is less than 10%, 10 to 11% is the number that we have. Many reasons contribute to it, right from that social stigma of to lack of awareness about the manufacturing sector, to lack of awareness of that such jobs exist even. So with this program we are identifying women from difficult economic circumstances and training them in different trades which are employable. One example is CNC operator training or assembly line operator training. So we have in Bangalore, Gurgaon, Chennai, Pune. This year we are extending it to Kharkhoda. We already have extended it to Kharkhoda. We are taking it to Kolkata, Visakhapatnam. So we are just growing this program across India in manufacturing sectors to see how this is like a proper, thoroughly, what do you say, an accredited program, which is like any other course. You have to take the course with hands-on training. They learn to work with machines. They go to plants to see on plant tour to actually see how these things work. So this has been going successfully, and not just skill development. We do placement drives and help them find jobs. Yeah. So we've 100% placed people who are there, but there are dropouts. So our success rate is not 100%, although we are placing 100%. Some drop out, marriage, relocation, and many such reasons. So this we are hoping that we can extend it to differently abled people. We did a survey. Actually, our implementation partner did a survey, and we are trying to see what are some of those trades that fit for differently abled women. And we are planning to integrate that into our Women for Manufacturing program. Not just differently abled, there are several trauma victims of different kinds who end up being marginalized. So we are trying to see if we can get such women also to come forward and we can help them. So we will be integrating such things, Ruchika, going forward. In fact, we are already in discussions, but anything has to be backed with some proper research done, some data that we get out of it to see the success, how we will achieve success. So this is already in the works.
Great. So Deepa, and again, I would like to ask Pulkit and Professor Balakirshnan, how would you want? Do you want any kind of? You have any kind of recommendations for policymakers, to help you expedite the efforts that you are, doing for the visually impaired people through OnBoard? So, what are your recommendations or suggestions? What kind of changes would you like to see?
One is, once we are through this trials, and we are quite confident that the trials will be successful, because we already have gone through the trials, except that now we have to test it in a much larger setting, and also people using it for their daily day-to-day requirements, which was not the case when they are doing user trials. So inclusion actually happens through policy and regulation. Inclusion is not something, because whenever a person, whether you are buying a bus or by making a building, you try to cut costs, because costs are always important. Today, for example, in India, if all buildings have ramps, it is because you don't get a license for a building to be even occupied if you do not have a ramp. It is the building code that actually requires you to have ramps, requires you to have lifts. So all these things are coming because of the requirement, even braille labeling and things like that. So what we are hoping that the policymakers once the project starts, once we reach the implementation level, we will try to involve these agencies, which could actually help us. Interestingly, many organizations which are actually lobbying for this to be a policy are already with us. They already want to approach the government. But at that stage, we will need support so that quickly after these trials, it can become a regulatory requirement that all new buses, first of all, this should be a specification. That is one important thing. Second, for existing buses, in a certain time frame, they should get all fitted with these type of devices. So they become, from the policymakers, we'll need these two: specifications requirement, part of the specification. Second, a certain time frame in which the others have to comply. So we will approach them and we'll get engaged with them in that. So that's a very important requirement. Second, in terms of the trials, so because after Continental, there is more interest from other organizations also. So if we are planning to do trials, we also need help from the more bus operators should be able to help us conduct the trials. Because sometimes the situation in one city is not same as another city. Because in one place we were talking to, they had a rapid transport system which was operating little differently than regular bus stops. So there will be some need to establish it across geographies also, or across systems also. So we will also need support from these bodies to encourage that, please help us in conducting these trials across geographical regions. These are the two things supported me.
And if I were to add, Ruchika, from Continental, our view was always that the government is extremely good when it comes to these legislations, how legislations, for instance, safety regulations for vehicles, how the uptake has been, etc. It is extremely good the way we see it. So we are very confident that once we are able to show the value, once we get more industry bodies on board with this, once industry standard testings are complete, and we have some results to show, we are very positive about it. We are very confident that policy makers are going to see the value of this and take this forward. What we see, at least, is that the government is extremely that there is a certain vision with which legislations are implemented in our country pertaining to mobility. So we are very sure that the value of this will be seen.
Great. Pulkit, would you like to add something to that as well?
Sure. So I think from the bus accessibility point of view, yes, policy side, things will change definitely. Once you have a citywide working trial where people are boarding buses, going to their work using the systems, you have something to demonstrate, the change will definitely happen. On the user side also, I would like to add that we had some experience with SmartCan. SmartCan currently goes through government schemes, free of cost. So definitely that channel, again, we have around linkages with around 200 user organizations across India.
Okay.
So we will be using that channel to again popularize that these systems are now available. Now people can board buses independently. We'll ask these organizations to help us in training, even help us in awareness to the bus companies, like bus transport authorities, so that the drivers and conductors are trained properly about these systems. So those kind of ecosystem changes where it will happen parallelly to the policy side. And we are very confident that the scale of such system will happen. Once you prove it to a citywide level, then the scale will definitely happen.
Okay, great. Just one quick question to Pulkit again. You said, training these transport drivers especially. So are you also looking at training them? Would that be
Yes,
your
definitely. In the part of as a part of this CSR initiative also, we want to actually formalize a training. So it's not a very big training. It's a half-day training where you just have to aware them that there is a system that is there on your buses and what this system does and how is this system helpful, and from a long-term perspective, how this system can even be managed. Because from a long-term perspective, it should be working. It's on the bus, so it's also a responsibility of the bus operator to manage that system. Okay, so that kind of training, again, those modules at a city-wide level has not been standardized yet.
Okay.
So through the CSR, one of the primary objective will be to standardize those modules so that the training thing can also be scaled. It can be in form of online videos or a smaller physical training and those sort of things. Those modules will also finalize using this basically project and then scale it up.
Okay, great. That's really good. I mean, that's such a commendable effort all three of you are making, and it's very heartening to see such great collaboration happening. And in fact, I think by promoting inclusivity and accessibility to the visually impaired and slowly to other people with disabilities is actually going to be a change maker, will transform the space for the good. And I would like to thank, on behalf of the CSRuniverse team, I would like to thank all of you for joining us and giving us those valuable insights. It was great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.